Garrett. I have defended him for years.
Yeah.
I think he's smart. But this team lacks an identity. I always say this about my bosses, Trent. I'm going to come in and work hard. But I have no control over company morale. I don't have any control over company direction. That's on my bosses. So if the direction stinks, that's on you. Players play. But I do think it's a coach's job to create an identity. Fellas, this is what we are. I thought Jason whiffed on that. I didn't like that. There was a chance to say, guys, 4 hours on the road. This is our Sunday night. I didn't like it.
So I don't disagree. I'm putting myself in Jason Garrett's shoes.
Okay.
And he's looking at his team. You know, every head coach has to look at their team from 30,000 feet. Say,
right.
okay, this is who we are this year. This is who personnel has given us. How are we going to take this group and win based on our players, our coaching staff, the situation we're in? And I think it's pretty obvious that they chose we're going to play really good defense. They have an up-and-coming defense. And they're going to be
linebackers are pretty interesting.
They're going to be really good in the years to come.
Yeah.
And we're going to be physical, and we're going to run the ball, and we're going to be opportunistic in the passing game.
Yeah.
So that's who we're going to be.
Okay.
And we're going to build our game plans. We're going to call the game. We're going to do everything around that identity. Play good defense, run the football, bleed the clock, be opportunistic in the passing game. That's basically what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Well, then they get put in a situation last night where it actually fits that identity if you go for it and you try to muscle them and push them around and hold the ball and not give it back to Houston. And they don't do it. And I bet you he's beating himself up this morning because his 30,000-foot view of this team would have fit perfectly into that moment. And as we know, you just said it, the NFL is about moments. It's about situations. Not everyone's the same. They're fluid. And I think last night, if there's a criticism of Jason Garrett, is that the identity he's built for his team fit perfectly into that moment, and he didn't do it. Yeah. And then he gives Houston the ball. And by the way, that throw that Deshaun makes to Hopkins is brilliant.
Yeah.
I think too much was made of the run after the catch, which was really good.
Yeah.
But to take something off of that ball when a defender's undercutting it and put it high and soft where he can now go run with it, that's one of the better throws we've seen this season. I mean, we do all these fantastic Mahomes, all these great throws in the end zone. That moment, that throw is as good as we've seen. Because if that's on a line shot, if that's a high school kid that only knows how to throw one speed and it's accurate, it's right here, it's picked. That ball has to be soft and layered to beat the defender. That's a fantastic play.
You know, I was saying earlier, and I've been critical of OBJ in the past, but I think there's always a family member that is maybe more secure. Most people aren't confrontational. But I do think having a confrontational person in any family is important. Dad's drinking too much. Grandma shouldn't be driving. Phil is inappropriate at Thanksgiving dinner. Somebody's got to stand up and...
No doubt. It's my oldest daughter. But keep going.
So I think you can't have a family full of that. But OBJ came out before the game. Can't cut him. Face of the franchise. Absolute leverage. Totally respected by players. And he came out and he said a couple things and people freaked out. And I thought, you know what? If the owner of the Giants really sat down, he'd know the elephant in the room of the Giants, Trent. It's kind of the Eli situation. Doesn't OBJ have a responsibility? I know it's tough, but I look at him and I think he didn't say anything that everybody's not talking about and whispering behind Eli.
So, again, we're very close on this. I think I'm a big believer that without conflict, there's no growth. So we're saying the same thing. You have to be willing to have conflict if you want to grow as a team. And you need that antagonist, that person that will stand up and create conflict so that we can discuss things, so we can work through things, so we can talk about the elephant in the room. I 100% agree. However, it can't be done in that form if you care about team dynamics. So what OBJ did with that interview with Josino, he did say a lot of things that probably needed to be said behind closed doors. They didn't need to be said in a public forum like that when everybody's going to watch, and now it's going to create a lot of conversations on the team. And I was thinking about it this way. One of the big whiffs today in sports is that we train athletes in a bunch of different areas, but where we don't train them enough, and it might be the most important thing if you're a superstar, is political training. You have to be a politician. Every quarterback, every playmaker, anybody's going to sit and talk into one of these or do sit-downs with reporters has to have some political training. You have to learn how to not tell the truth to the media. You have to learn how to creatively get around hard questions. You have to, it's a skill that you have to learn for team dynamics. Because what happens now is that today in New York, that team is having to deal with OBJ being the team spokesman, and that's not his job.
Wasting time.
They're wasting time, distraction. It's an emotional drain on every player in that locker room, every coach on that staff, every person in management now has to devote a chunk of their Monday and Tuesday, days that should be devoted to looking at what happened yesterday and moving forward to the Thursday night game. Instead, they're having to deal with what he did in the sit-down interview. And that's where it's tough. Like, I agree. There has to be a catalyst. There has to be something to get all this stuff out. But it can't be done in that form because now you've just heaped a big pile of you-know-what on every other person on that team and that organization. They have to deal with it, and that's where this one gets tough.
All right, so I want to talk. I said on Friday, I think the rookie quarterback's going to have an interesting week.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was situational. Denver, short week, on the road, early game. Jets played like crap. Todd Bowles will button it up. So I thought the Jets' running game was unbelievable. I'll give you the quarterback when we talk about it. Sam Darnold against Denver made a couple of big throws over the top. What did you make of him?
That was fantastic. I think the ability to get chunk yardage plays as a young quarterback is very hard. It's easy to sit there and pick apart zones and dump the ball off and be careful. It's hard to make big plays. I think he's everything I thought he would be. He's a fantastic he has a fantastic presence. He's going to infuse energy into that organization, and he's just a natural playmaker. He's done this since high school. I've said it forever. He just makes everybody better.
Yeah, you watched him in high school.
He's the guy that walks onto a team, into a room, wherever he goes, and just everybody gets better. Some people have that effect. That's Sam Darnold, and you're seeing it. And they're not going to be great, but I think we see them kind of the same way. They're a 7-9-ish type team.
Most of their players, Leonard Williams, Jamal Adams, most of their good players are on defense.
Yeah.
That's the way they are right now.
They're going to have massive hope. Like, they're going to finish this season, and there's going to be momentum for the New York Jets because they're going to have hope because the guy playing quarterback for them.
Baker Mayfield didn't throw the ball downfield quite as much, but over the course of a game, he made a couple of really nice runs. He made a couple of really big throws. I think Baltimore's a real team. What'd you make of Baker?
He's special in two ways we've talked about before. He's very precise. I hate using the word accurate because people look at that as completion percentage. He's exact with how he throws the football.
Yeah.
Like, if it needs to be on this side of the face, it finishes on this side of the face. Like, it needs to be low and away, it's low and away. He's very exact with the ball. Very, very gifted passer. It shows up all the time. His ability to create time and space, he has that one little move that gets a lot of people in trouble where he goes backwards to create time. That's a bad deal for most people. For him, it's brilliant. It's like his way. Drew Brees did it for years, too, where they start to climb and they're working, and then they bounce back. And as they bounce back, they can still throw the ball down the field. It's special. And then Baker's his greatest quality is, people call it, the clutch gene. He's a gamer, whatever you want to call it. Like, he rises to the occasion. He's at his best when things around him are kind of nasty and ugly. And I think it's cool what's going on. I mean, I played in Cleveland for 1 year, and for some weird reason, I kind of always root for him.
Yeah.
And I just think it's awesome what he's doing in that city for that organization.
Now, we're talking about Darnold Baker. I thought Josh Rosen. I got to tell you, I think they've been a little conservative on his game plan calling. I don't like calling out coaches. Mike McCoy, you got it yesterday. Way too much run on first down. Way too predictable. I think Rosen looks good.
They're finding their way. I think what Josh will help them do is expand the offense. I use this term all the time. You know how good a quarterback is when you start seeing them expand the offense, because what that means internally is the coach is like, whoa, we can do more with this guy. Oh, we can do this. We couldn't do that with the other guy. We can do it now with this guy. I think you're going to see that in Arizona. You start seeing Josh practice every day. You start seeing his capacity to learn and grow in a system and how smart he is and how much he can shoulder. you're going to start seeing this offense expand because internally they're going, oh, wow, we can do way more at this kid. Yesterday we didn't see it. But just watch the Cardinals now for the next 6 weeks and watch what this offense starts looking like. It's going to look way different than it did with Bradford and it did yesterday because they're figuring out we have something special in Josh.
By the way, if we got some Rams video, Rams-Seahawks was a wild game. Okay, when I think it's easy to look at the Rams and go, oh, my God, they're doing all this crazy stuff, but they really do a lot of power running.
Oh, yeah.
I watch the Rams. They are so fun. They are so clever. It almost makes me think if I had a coaching opening, I didn't know who Sean McVay was before he was. I didn't know who Matt Nagy was. There's like this revolution of these young coaches doing crazy stuff. When you watch the Rams, what are the things that you see that I'm not going to see because I wasn't an NFL player?
They create angles in space. They use misdirection and gimmicks and bells and whistles to simply create angles in space. It's what every great offense coordinator is. I mean, you know me pretty well. I'm a geek when it comes to studying this stuff for the last 20 years. And everyone I've ever studied, from Sean Payton to Lincoln Riley to Sean McVay to whoever they are, whoever, Andy Reid, Nagy, as you start seeing trends, you start studying guys. Josh McDaniels does a great job in New England. They use all this stuff just so their players can have a better opportunity to win their one-on-ones. It's that simple. So when you see Kupp run a route where he comes way inside and then goes back to the corner, all they're saying is we're going to make this defender think one thing, and then you're going to do the other, and it's going to create more space for you. When they use the fly sweep motion over and over and over, just to create a tiny little tilt in the backers and safeties, it's creating angles for the offensive linemen and the blockers to now have a better chance to win their one-on-ones. So these great coordinators, these great innovators offensively, they have tools in their toolbox to better equip their players to win their one-on-one battles for 70 plays.
Yeah.
And they don't take any play for granted. And that's what I respect the most, is there's a lot of coaches that say, oh, we're going to get in two backs or we're in power because we've done it 1,000 times. When it might be better to motion that back from the slot back into the backfield to create a tiny little tilt in the backers to let your right tackle have a better angle to come down and crush them up.
They're putting more time into it.
They're putting more time. There's more thoughtfulness. There's more IP, to be quite honest with you. People think that all NFL coaches are created equal. They're not. There's many that are just way smarter than the rest. And there's some that are just lazy.
Yep.
And they've just kind of climbed the ladder because they know the right people.
Yep.
And they've said the right things. And they've done well in interviews. And they got an owner to fall in love with them, or a head coach, or they're loyal. Half of the NFL jobs just because you've been loyal to a guy. Then there's the special ones.
Yeah.
There's the McVays.
Yeah.
That they're just smarter. They're just better. They just work harder than others.
Trent Dilfer, great seeing you.
Awesome.
We are loaded today. Tony Gonzalez, Greg Jennings coming up. Thoughts on what I saw in Vegas this weekend. Mayhem to some, chaos to others. It's The Herd.